Good evening, everybody. This is Casper from the Tropical Weather Threat Society bringing you our nightly update. Through the overnight hours, Bermuda was struck by Imelda, though the damage has been reported to be rather easy to overcome, and with the best news of all, zero fatalities reported. So that is the best news of it all. But the National Hurricane Center decided that they wanted to spice some things up today. And as you can see, we now have areas of highlighted interest here on the outlook. For disturbance number one, this is a little area of. This thing is not going to develop into anything. It's going to be a glorified rainmaker, and I will have to pull up some of the WPC guidance. I didn't pull it up here beforehand. Now that I think about it, I should. It has a 10% chance of development over the next 24 or 48 hours and 7 days, but folks, this is just a glorified rainmaker. This is a highlighted rainmaker. This one, on the other hand, is a little bit becoming a little bit concerning. So, disturbance number two currently has a 0% chance of development over the next 48 hours and a 20% chance of development over the next 7 days. Now, it's still on the African mainland. It is still forecast to come off and then eventually have the opportunity to develop somewhere over the main development region of the tropical Atlantic. If we take a look here real fast at our spot with this stalled out frontal boundary, there goes Imelda. This stalled out frontal boundary, an area of vorticity may try to exist there, but it's not doing very good at all. As you can see, there's a great amount of shear involved with that. Getting down here towards the surface, you can very clearly see the remnants of Imelda right there, or the extratropical system attached with the frontal boundary, and you see these winds coming in like this. Now, we're looking for an area of vorticity highlighted by the National Hurricane Center somewhere in that region. If we come up to the 850 millibar level, we notice a broad area of spin way out here to the east. And again, Earthnall is not going to pinpoint exactly where things are. If we come up to the 700 millibar level, we notice that the winds are starting to get a little weaker coming across the peninsula. But the moment we go up to the 500 millibar level, we notice that this is where our trough is sitting, very clearly defined with the air coming in like this and then heading out like that. Well, if I come up one more to the 250 millibar level, approximately 6 miles above the ocean surface, you take a look at the wind shear that this thing is in the middle of right now. So, tropical cyclone development is definitely not expected or anticipated with this area here. It is a highlighted, it's just a highlighted area of heavy rainfall that's coming. So let's go over here and use Earthnall and try to sniff out where our wave is. Somewhere I would say we've got a little area of vorticity right here and what looks to be another area right there. So something out here is going to eventually get going. We will look at our vorticity model here momentarily. But first, one thing that I want to continue to address to folks, just because we've got Imelda off the board, you look at these winds. All right, that wind is responsible for a great amount of disturbed waters. So much so that we do not have a particular system on the board, but we still have a very, very high rip current risk. at least for the next 4 days, especially down here into the southeastern United States. So if anybody plans on going out to the beach this weekend along the east coast of the Florida Peninsula, getting down into parts of the Bahamas, Puerto Rico, there, coastal Georgia, coastal South Carolina, and North Carolina and stuff, please make sure that you check with your local officials before you even consider trying to get in the water. Right now, with the former two hurricanes that we had in such close proximity to one another, they've really, really churned up the waters out here. And we want to make sure that everybody stays safe. So, rip current, our rip current risk remains quite high, at least through this weekend. So, please check with your local officials. Jumping into our ensembles. Now, here we've got our Euro Legacy ensembles. As you can see, we definitely have a clear signal going out 7 days here of potential development for a tropical wave that, as you can see here, begins to potentially try to materialize maybe in about 48 hours. We'll get some coherency on it, and then we will run it forward out 7 days. At the same time, as you will note, we have a little bit of chicken scratch here, and that is going to, this is going to exist while we still have these washed out frontal boundaries. And that was noted here back on Earth Null. If I clear this all out and come back up to the 500 millibar level, you will see kind of how these frontal boundaries kind of hang out right here. And little areas of vorticity can certainly spin up along these boundaries as they just kind of wash out and hang out over the open waters. So again, not expected to develop into much of anything at all. There is a great amount of shear. This is going to be a considerable rainmaker though, and I will pull those WPC values up here as soon as we get through the ensembles. So again, this is the Euro Legacy out 7 days. Now, if we take the GEFS and go out 7 days, again, we have very similar signals. We've got our spot out here with our wave, and then our area here. We're just a little small area of vorticity. It does not have to be tropical in nature, and that is also highlighted by these areas of low pressure here over land. So just because we see things does not necessarily mean that they are tropical in nature. Now, if we compare that to the Euro AI, again, a very similar signal, but a little bit of difference. A little bit less here, going through 7 days for development opportunities. We still have the chicken scratch here, located over going out the next 7 days here. And then we've got a small area of potential down here into the Bay of Campeche, into the Southern Gulf. So we may have to keep an eye on those spots. A lot of it has to do with the troughing feature that is draped across. And as we get into our humidity models here in a moment, they should show kind of where the troughs are set up. So now we are going to take a quick run into the Google DeepMind. We have a, this is Matmo here approaching the island of Luzon. May become a typhoon, Category 1 hurricane, prior to reaching that. But that's the only threat to land that we have on the board. So now if I run this out, we are going to zoom in a little bit on our basins on our side of the world here. We get to day 5. Now, here we are, day 5, as you can see, maybe a circle or two trying to get something organized down here. Each dot represents 2% probability, so I certainly wouldn't put my money on 6%. Again, same kind of thinking here for the possibility of a Central American gyre developing. But the majority of the guidance wants to favor the dispel of that energy into the Eastern Pacific this go around. So, and I use this go around very much so because we are going to have to deal with the Central American gyre. So now I'm going to pull a plot here on this, and as you could see, this is going out 6 days. I meant to put 7, but it is 6 3/4 days. As you could see, if it were to develop, and again, we're looking at intensity distribution of less than, adding all these up, we're talking about 17, 18, 19, 20. So you're looking at maybe 40% chance. Again, that doesn't look like 20 lines, but it very well could be. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and then the original 9, that's 20. So we're looking at a 40% probability of something getting organized. As you could see, there are a wide variety of tracks associated with intensity and where development may occur. So if we could get this to run north, kind of what the majority of the members that do develop this call for, but then there's this small little track down here, a little further to the south. So that would potentially bring some stormy conditions there to our friends in the islands. So just for the folks out there in the islands along the Eastern Caribbean, getting out here towards Montserrat, Guadeloupe, Dominica, Anguilla, Antigua, Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis, the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico. Folks, please keep an eye on this. That's all I ask. Just monitor this. We still got plenty of time. So just stay weather aware of it. And if something were to try to develop, again, we've got plenty of time to watch it. Now, I am going to cover here real quick with the EPAC. Some of them are calling for this next storm to potentially get out into parts of land. So please, folks, just we're in October. I mean, like it's we still got about we've got 2 months to go before we're to the end of the season. But by the time that we get into getting into November, the potential for threats really start to drop off. But we got to get there first. So what we have here now are 850 millibar cyclonic vorticity. We have the Euro on the left and the GFS on the right. This represents areas of spin approximately 1 mile above the ocean surface. As I continue to run this forward, we will note that our trough remains prevalent right here. And as you could see, the GFS wants to try to get a little bit of energy there over the Florida Peninsula, but the Euro, a little bit of buckling there, but not a lot. Again, the trough is very, very evident. So now we are going to erase this. That was at 60 hours. And now we're going to run this forward. As you can see, that little area of vorticity or energy lifts off into the northern portions of the Gulf. I know the GFS and the Euro. Hey, that might bring me rain. I'm all for it. You can bring me a highlighted area of rain. You won't hurt my feelings at all. Now, once we get out here to day 7, this is where things get a little interesting, because this is our wave highlighted area of interest right now. The Euro definitely has this being a tropical cyclone. That is a storm for sure. It's still kind of elongated here like this on the GFS, but the area is beginning to consolidate right here. So you can see an increase in energy for sure. It has not fully consolidated and developed yet, but we also have a low pressure right here and another developing low right there with the GFS and the euro, the GFS favoring some of that energy dispelling off into the Eastern Caribbean, heading that general direction, as to where the euro has kind of a dual split, kind of two different lobes there, one into the Gulf, one into the Eastern Pacific. So again, these are things that we are going to continue to be monitoring for. That's really what you use this for, is just an area to highlight and be like, okay, I'm going to watch this particular feature. And as we continue to run the euro and the GFS out, and we get it out to as far as we're going to take it here with the 10-day, we do have an area of interest with potential development that is very, very close to one another. Out 10 days. They're both in agreement on this. So at that point, and then its location. Here is Puerto Rico, right here. Here is Puerto Rico, right here. So they're in a decent agreement as far as what this is concerned, going out into the long range. That makes it to where, okay, all right, we need to take this a little serious and just monitor. Again, we've still got plenty of time, but it's got that signal to it to where we may have to monitor this, and it would be highly recommended for the folks down there in the islands just to keep a watch on this. Now, we're going to check in with our humidity. We've got on the top two graphics, we have our 500 millibar. On the bottom two graphics, we have the 700 millibar. These graphics are representative of our humidity levels approximately between 10,000 and 18,000 feet above sea level, or the ocean surface. Now, our browns represent our dry air, our blues and greens represent our moisture. We have the euro on the left and the GFS on the right for comparison. So as we run this forward, we will note that we have that trough. You can very clearly see the trough. We're out 90 hours, and anything can try to spin up off of this. We had that little low pressure area there, and the euro called for some little low pressure area there. So it definitely will remain cloudy, a good amount of moisture there with the flooding potential for the east coast of Florida. Again, I will be pulling up the WPC here momentarily. Getting out towards 7 days, we do notice that wave that is approaching the islands, there's not a lot of that dry air in front of it. There's a little bit, but not a lot. The euro has just a little bit more of a reading, but as we get down to the 700 millibar level, where's that dry air? There's a little bit here on the GFS, but we don't really see much. And this could allow for this wave to find just a pocket of moisture that will allow it to develop. And by the time that we get out to day 7 here, we may start to see, as we get in, starting to get towards the middle of the month, maybe a little bit more of a conducive conditions and environmental conditions that would allow for at least another storm or two to develop here. And again, if we run it out to 10 days, even though we clearly saw that the euro and the GFS had organized systems, as you can see, there is a decent amount of dry air on the Euro present. And I mean, big time on the Euro. But the GFS, we still have a decent amount, but it's also getting a lot of moisture coming up from the intertropical convergence zone. The Euro, on the other hand, kind of looks like it's stalled out a little bit, but as you can see here, another area of low pressure exists on the Euro, maybe a stretched out spot here on the GFS. But again, folks, it's just we're into October. It's definitely things that we have to keep an eye on. Any type of considerable amount of moisture down there really brings the possibility of some serious problems. And that's the 18Z. Let's go to Florida. Let's click back to the 12Z. And this is what I'm talking about. The east coast of the Florida Peninsula has the opportunity to see a great amount of rain over the next 7 days, especially while this system is in the region, because you may have the winds coming from the surface coming this way onto the state, but you're also having a great amount of winds in the mid levels and upper levels going that way. The overall resulting sea breeze action is really bringing these rainfall totals along the east coast. And as you can see, a dramatic difference in 100 miles, 125 miles is all it takes to go from one side to the other down here. And you've got 1.4 inches here in Fort Myers and 7 inches over here on the east coast. So it big time rain problems for our friends there along the east coast of the Florida Peninsula, and even getting up even further. You've got that onshore flow competing with that mid-level flow, and with the low pressure in the region, it is going to allow for lift or thunderstorm activity to occur, and that's where we have the problem. That's where we're looking at a great amount of rain. And speaking of that wind shear, these are graphics representative of the winds between 5 and 40,000 feet above sea level or the ocean surface. We have the Euro on the left and the GFS on the right. If we just run this forward, you will note that there is a little area of low pressure as we get out to 4 days. There's still a great amount of shear in the region, but as we start to get towards day 7, as you can see, we get a little spot here of maybe a little bit of conducive conditions starting to develop. For me, just looking at this in more of a personalized reason, it's this area all in here. And again, we see that right here as well. All right, yes, there is a little bit of a shear component here. But overall, this seems to be a pretty decently conducive environment. Yes, this spot right here in the Caribbean is known as the graveyard, and there's reasons that I'm not going to go into here tonight. It'd be too technical. But the winds will increase right here in this region. But that doesn't always necessarily mean much, because if you have a storm that's already trying to get itself organized, it's going to influence those wind values and directions associated with that. All right, now I am going to quickly take a look if anybody has any questions. Oh, Amanda. Lord have mercy. I hope you feel better for sure. Very sorry to hear that. Let's see. Hey, Sabby. Yeah, no, people could share the rain up here. I would greatly appreciate it. We're getting into level 2 to level 3 drought up here, and we really need the rain. We've got some in the forecast, but that's all really going to depend upon what exactly occurs with this little 10-10 spot that we've got down there. All right, jumping out into the eastern Pacific, we have Tropical Storm Octave, and then we also have an area that does not have a highlighted invest tag on it yet, but does have a 70% chance of development over the next 48 hours and a 90% chance of development over the next 7 days. If we take a look at the satellite, we have a very, very broad area of spin and rotation in this region right here. Nothing that we can pinpoint and put an invest tag on just yet, but this is the one that we're quite concerned about as it comes forward here. And Octave makes this turn back this direction. Do we end up seeing this storm? Does one pivot the other, similar to what we've seen with Umberto and Imelda? Maybe. Or does one come up and just make a turn due to a trough that would be coming in? I would certainly like to see them, do something like this with the decayed form of tropical cyclone out there. If we go into the particulars for Octave real quick here, we're located at 12.7 north, 119.0 west. It's 925 miles away from the Baja, so it's not a threat to land. Maximum sustained winds of 60 miles an hour, moving west-northwest at 8 miles an hour, and a minimum central pressure of 997 millibars. There are currently no coastal watches or warnings in effect, and there are no hazards affecting land. If we take a look at its forecast track, it is forecast to continue on a west-northwesterly heading till about late time on Saturday, where it is going to basically camp out and park in a very, very close region within itself for 48 hours or so, and then begin to move back to the east as we go forward at the end of the 5-day period. If we take a look at the forecaster's discussion, we are not going to read this out tonight, but as you could see, we've got it maybe making minimal Category 1 hurricane strength. It's at 70 miles an hour. It wouldn't take much for it to achieve that. But then from 96, we know that it was starting to make that eastward turn. By the time that we get to the 120-hour mark, it has significantly weakened here on the forecast, from 70 miles an hour down to 50 miles an hour. So again, not really concerned with that. If we take a look at the ensembles for the Eastern Pacific, we have the Euro Legacy going out 7 days. If we run this forward, though, going out 10 days, there does remain a possibility here that we could see this turn towards land, which would then directly impact our friends here on the Baja and into Mexico, plus bring a surge of moisture into the southwestern United States that could also transition eastward as it is picked up by a frontal boundary. And this was supposed to be the Eastern Pacific. This one is a little concerning, as you could see, depending on where it develops. We could have the opportunity for something to pull back towards the Baja Peninsula there, but the GFS, for the most part of its forecast, the higher probability of the track forecasting would favor moving this out into the open waters, getting it out a little bit too far, succumbing to some of that stable air and cooler water temperatures, but then either dissipating over the open waters there or possibly even coming back. So again, just something that we'll keep a watch on. Now, comparing that to the Euro AI, the Euro AI was really, really favoring a landfall yesterday. If I pull up yesterday's model, you take a look here. Here's today. That's a major shift to the west. It doesn't seem like a lot, but that is a considerable shift to the left. And that is, again, if it gets out a little bit too far, it will succumb to the more hostile conditions for tropical cyclones with the reduction in sea surface temperatures and the more stable air mass over those cool waters. Jumping out to the western Pacific, we had our final issued here on Tropical Cyclone 1B. This became a deep depression, moved in earlier this morning, our time, into parts of India. No real significant impacts reported, at least from wind, though flooding is definitely an issue. We have Invest 90A out here into the Arabian Sea. It is not looking very good via satellite, but it has a high chance of development over the next 24 hours. Now, we also have Tropical Storm Matmo. And this one is on approach and will make impacts to the island of Luzon here into the Philippines. As noted, right now, the Joint Typhoon Warning Center has it at 55 knots. It still has a little ways to go before it reaches land, and it could very easily become a minimal typhoon, 65 knots, minimal Category 1 hurricane, before it makes landfall there on the eastern side of central Luzon. It is then forecast to pull out into the South China Sea, re-intensify again, and then, of course, without fail, it is headed to the place to where just about every other one of them decided that they wanted to go this year, and that is towards the Hainan Peninsula and towards potentially Vietnam as well. So in southern China, these folks have just taken an absolute beating tropical cyclone wise, and just the amount of rain that has had to have fallen in this region. Let me get my crayon out. The amount of rain that has had to fall in this region right here, that is just absolutely crazy amounts of rain, and that also includes this here. It's just unbelievable amounts of rain this year. Numerous tropical cyclones. Numerous. I feel for them. I really, really do. I don't care where you're from. I don't want anybody to be impacted by these kind of things to where it causes a loss of life. And there's been quite a few fatalities out here, and they're used to it. They're still. It's been so intense that it's so difficult to be able to actually overcome. You prepare all you want. It's still, Mother Nature is just bringing one haymaker right after another out there this year. All right. Messing up names. Yeah, no, I'm very, very good at that. We are definitely known for mispronunciations around here on a regular basis. So if you guys want to hear me just absolutely butcher language, hey, I'm your guy. I try my best, and it is obviously nowhere near what it should be. So real quick before we go ahead and sign off tonight, watch for the MJO, folks. As you can see, we've got signals bringing it back in towards phase 8. High-res GFS and the GEFS model also want to bring it back into phase 8. Just to kind of show everybody before I do sign off here tonight, I'll show you a couple disturbing graphics here. This is the Euro 200 millibar velocity potential, and if you notice, we've got a very, very large reduction in that velocity potential, and we are getting into as you can see here with this spot right here, this is our neck of the woods, quote unquote. As you can see with the map down here. And then we read this with time going down the graphic. So what we're looking at is the potential getting in towards maybe October 9th or whatever, and then possibly holding that until at least the middle of October. Now, again, that's the Euro Legacy 200 millibar. We can compare those. We never use just one run of one model. You always want to try to compare things. And as you can see, this is the AI version of the Euro. It does have a little bit of a different signal. As you can see here, we do see some of that here. But if you notice the propagation, which it always occurs like this, and then potentially an amplification of the MJO getting over the Arabian Sea and Bay of Bengal area as we get down towards the end, with that more suppressive phase, then looking like the latter part of October would allow us to have more of a suppressive phase of the MJO in the region. Again, that's long range out. These things are highly subject to change, but looking at some of these signals, it's a little concerning. And just to show everybody, if we compare the Euro to the GEFS, that I saved the worst for last. That right there, that sucks. And I'm not even just, we're just going to put it out blunt. That would suck. Because this set up where it's at right here. If you look at where we're at, this is South America, this is Central America right here. You look where this is. That just screams Central American Gyre region. That would suck. That really would. That if this continues to verify and it verifies at that amplification, yeah, that's gonna suck. So please don't let your guard down, folks. As you can see here, even the Climate Prediction Center for the new Global Tropics Hazards Outlook that just came out this past Tuesday. Maybe not in week 2, but you look at what we get running towards week 3. And this is the 15th through the 21st. This is basically the after effects. You know, and we've got it going in towards that. So, folks, please remain weather aware. We don't have anything imminent, but we've got signals that the season may not be over and done with yet. So please remain weather aware. We've got to get through at least October. That's why we're live every single night regardless. You know, you figure in seasons past, we would not be live tonight. Imelda already had its final advisory, a 10-10 and an 0-20. We would have never been live tonight. This was not enough to trigger it. We're still here. We're here till October 31st, and there's a reason behind that. The threat levels really begin to reduce after Halloween. Remain weather aware through the month of October, especially for our residents in the state of Florida, especially for you guys. All right, everybody, I am going to go ahead and sign off here tonight. We will be back live again tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central, here on Facebook and YouTube. So y'all have a wonderful evening, and we will talk to you again tomorrow night. Good night, all.